Good morning to you all. I am getting fairly low on different telephones to show you all. But today, I may have shown this in the past, not too sure. I know I have shown one of these previously that had a little indicator light on the case down there. These are Australian phones, number 802, made in Australia by either STC, Standard Telephones and Cables, or AWA, which is a well-known Australian communications firm. The example we've got here, you can see it was made by AWA, 1982. You've got the number on there as well, 802. I've also got an adjuster for the bell, metal base, fitting in onto the case, which is held on by little inserts there which are quite good. So you don't go into the plastic, you go into additional pieces of metal coming out there. Also, I'm going to turn him over. Hope I'm getting round the right way. We've got that all-important diagram. Now this diagram does appear on various sites, and one good site that talks about these phones is Bob's site, Bob's Telephones. I believe he was in fact based in Australia, but you'll get a lot of information there as well. Well, there's your actual circuit diagram. Fairly basic circuit, but once again does the job. It's got very few. The induction cord just looks like it's a single coil tapped, which is a little bit different to what you normally get. The case is in an ivory colour. Now let's turn him over so we can have a little look at the bits that go with it. Here we've got the actual mechanism. Show the dial in a minute. This is, as I say, I suppose they're fairly up to date circuit, the 802. It was introduced in 1970, and there's got a single coil bell. Got the AWA trademark there. The bell has got H and L, high and low. They've always said bells have always got two types to give you a nice richer tone. And they're the two there, on this case, high and low. The board itself, these have got these contacts which I don't particularly like, but anyhow, it's all working as far as I know. There would have been the Australian type of plug on the end of the lead, but that's not there at the moment. Also got those same type of slip-on contacts. Got the cradle spring contacts. Now I've got my pussycat meowing. You'll have to wait, I've just given you some food. She always meows after she had some food. It's a lovely cat. Yeah, they've shown the discs there that seem to be fairly common on these later phones. The two larger capacitors there, obviously for the bell. Yeah, as I say, a fairly, in my opinion, fairly modern design to the normal phone. There's your bell, as I say, the coil. Very, you can definitely tell there's bells of two sounds. Yeah, I don't have anything else on there. The board's got AWA as well, so the majority of the bits on this phone were in fact manufactured by AWA. The dial, let's have a little look at the dial. There is the dial that it uses on this type of telephone. Turn it around the right way. Made of plastic. The centre normally gets lost. The clear plastic opal, can you say? I don't know what you would call it, that goes in there, was normally, they went missing, and unfortunately both my two examples of this particular type of phone has not got that little clear disc. But not to worry, it's not the end of the world. The dial, I'll turn him over. Originally, the dials were imported. Either they used the English dial, or I believe the dials from Belgium. But this one is homemade, also made by, and I can find him, if it shows up down there. There we are. AWA, you've got a number down there. The dial was designated DMS2. I think that stood for dial multi-speed. I don't quite get the connection between multi-speed, but that I think is what it stood for. It's not a badly made dial. You can see your spring sets there. Your off normals, your impulse springs. You've got 5 connecting wires to it. And as I say, obviously does the job. It's got a plastic cover to keep the dirt and dust out. And obviously quite a successful dial. I understand when they brought this dial out, they redesigned the actual cover. But as I say, I've only got this style of Aussie phone, and what they did do understand, let me show you, you've got 2 little sort of knockouts there. In this case they're not used, but obviously can be used for earth button, switch or a key to change. And in the case of my other phone I've got, and I think it would have been, I don't know about standard, but it did have a little neon bulb in the one of those, that one there actually, and that would light up when ringing came in. So if you were a bit hard of hearing and the phone was ringing, you could tell it was ringing because the little neon used to light up. Whether that was standard, I don't know. I personally think it was obviously correct, because all the terminations on that little bulb and that were the same type of terminations that are used throughout this set or telephone. Anyhow, leaving the cover. The cover is actually quite a neat cover. I understand these little pips that you can see on there was a recent, well I say recent, originally they don't think these had that, and the idea was to keep the handset from pulling off. I don't know how it would come off, but that's what I understand they were added, two little pips. Now the handset is distinct handset again. It's not reminiscent of any other handset as far as I know. But the innards, and I took these out, the receiver is exactly the same as the ones used on our 706s, 700 series, and made by STC. Whether that was made in Australia, I imagine it probably was, but it's certainly the same type of rocking armature. These were called rocking armature, and they were quite successful, and it looks like the Aussie phones used them. The transmitter, or the microphone, whatever you like to call it, and what the information was on these, the write-up, I think this was Bob actually in his little write-up on here, he was stating that this type of microphone, which is the carbon granule type, I call the top hat type. It was a very popular type of microphone, shape-wise, as you would see on the older English phones, on the Indian phones and other phones. And this design, obviously, the carbon microphone, those phones, goes back 100 years. So it was in fact changed to the electronic type, which I haven't got on here. Whether it's the same type of electronic which would fit into the 700s, I don't know. It probably would. You'd probably do away with that extra shell, and the insert would go in there. But this one still shows the older type. Mind you, the Aussie phones were, I suppose, really based on the old English ones, and I can remember seeing on a program called Home and Away, which was an Aussie film or a series. I think it's still being shown on the box, and Alf, who was one of the main characters in there, he had his little fishing shed, I think it was a little shed that he had, and in there was the 332, which I thought, oh God, same as what we used to use. So they obviously were based on our older phones, but I think they were changed slightly with a different handset. But I think the original handset on the 332 used in Australia was the same as our one. Just a little bit of history. I know it goes back a few years. I know Home and Away have been going for a long time, and I remember seeing this when I was actually still at work. So it was a few years ago. It was on Home and Away. And also, as a little anecdote, I remember they had a water, what they call it, they did call it a name. We call it an electric kettle, which there's one here, but that's a modern one. But the ones they used to have an element which went straight into the water. No insulation. It just went straight into the water. The only way you couldn't touch it while it was being used was the plug itself prevented the top or the lid from being taken off. And they I believe were quite popular in Australia. They did tend to taint the taste of the water. The water tasted horrible. So I've got a couple of those I picked up from various things, so they were a bit of an interesting item. But as I say, the element went straight into the water. They made a buzzing noise as they heated up. They were very quick to boil. But I just had that as a little bit of interest. I first come across that many years ago when she wasn't a relative, but someone I knew visited Australia, and she brought back one of these. Now, I got a name that they call them in Australia. I'm not sure what it is, but she brought this back. When she showed it to me, I couldn't believe it. I said, "Blimey, that can't be very safe." But yeah, they were, and they also made a version which, once the water boiled, would turn itself off. So yeah, they were quite good. Anyway, I saw one of these they showed on Home and Away one year, and it blew up, I suppose, as a warning. Anyhow, I'm getting off of the subject of the telephone. That's more or less all I've got to say on here. So once again, thanks for watching. I still haven't received that phone from Canada yet. Hopefully it's wending its way to England. Whether it's on the plane or boat, I don't know. But it hasn't arrived yet. But we'll wait with interest. Anyhow, that's all I've got to say today. I don't think I've missed anything out. Just recapping, this is the popular phone that was used in Australia. It's number 802. It was introduced in 1970 with the Aussie dial, DMS, dial multi-speed, I think that means, number 7. And yeah, it's a good case as well. It's I don't think this phone's actually seen much use. But unfortunately, to get Aussie phones are normally quite expensive because you've got the cost of the postage, which coming from the other side of the world isn't cheap. But anyhow, I've managed to get 2 of these phones now. So if any other Aussie phones come along at the sensible price, I'd be very tempted. But also do make sure that they are correct, which is a lot of dodged up phones, not just the Aussie phones, but you know, as Andy was saying on his site, he picked an Aussie phone up, and I understand the dial had been glued in, so you have to be careful. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I've been talking too long. So once again, thanks for listening. And reminder, of course, tomorrow is Sunday when Andy sheds on, so that's always worth having a little listen to and a look at, so that's okay. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. So once again, thanks for watching. Thank you.